Gamers, I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now we're doing this because Julie loves the Legendary games, and we've already covered some of them, so we're giving this as an extra release for you guys. That's why it's not coming out on our usual Thursday. Now this game is published by Upper Deck, and this version of the game, I believe, I'm not sure it says original game design, not sure why it says that, but it does give credit to Travis Chance and Nick Little. Now, if you do know that I got it wrong, feel free to let us know in the comments below. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
So it's a cooperative deck building game that plays 1 to 5 players in about 30 to 90 minutes. It's for ages 14 and above, probably because it's a Buffy and it's vampire content. But gameplay, probably a little bit younger. If you think your kid can handle some of the vampire content, then it should be good.
So what are you going to be doing in this game? Well, you have a board and you've got a deck. What you're going to be doing is acquiring heroes, famous heroes from the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or
like Angelus or Angel.
Yeah, so the Buffyverse, as it's more commonly known. And what you're going to be doing is fighting different enemies, protecting Sunnydale, while building your deck to take out the big bad and defeat their scheme. Now, is this going to be an awesome game? Well, we're going to find out soon. So what are we going to do, Julie?
Then grab our drinks.
Grab our drinks. Grab our best friend. We're going to take it to the table.
I'm definitely Buffy.
You're definitely Buffy? Well, you don't get to pick. I can acquire all the Buffy cards if I feel like it. Now we're going to take a look at the components in Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As you can see, the largest component is the playmat, and those of you familiar with Legendary will notice there are some differences, such as the light and the dark track, as well as the place for the courage token. We'll talk more about that as we get into the setup and the how to play. Now, it's just going to be a quicker version of the how to play, as we've really covered Legendary in detail, and there are only some minor differences. But let's start talking about these components. We'll start off with the new stuff. So we've got the Vampire Book, which is the light and the dark token. Now you use this to track the light and the dark level, which may trigger negative effects, such as the Big Bad Darks ability, or let you gain a courage token. It will also have an effect on different character cards. Now we'll just jump a little bit ahead. You'll notice that when you're in the dark, well, you get +5 damage and you get to advance the light twice. So that's pretty cool. Don't worry, we'll talk more about that stuff later on. Next, we've got the courage tokens, which is the new resource and the new component. And what these do is they can either be spent as a recruit point or a action point, well, a fight point there. And you will gain them either, as you see, by advancing the light or doing something else, or such as defeating a villain. And you can see that there are certain things here like advancing the light, which will then gain you them as a reward. Now let's talk about the different characters that you get. And you get a total of 15 characters that you can use to build your hero deck. Now we'll start with our first two, the people that were sort of introduced to this whole world with Buffy Summers. And you notice that in the top here we've got her symbol, which states that she's a Slayer. Also the type of card this is, which is a strength card. We've got Rupert Giles as a character. His symbol here is the Watcher symbol, and it also has the magic symbol. Now certain cards may be working in conjunction with the different types, such as Slayers, Watchers, or as you can see right here, the Scoobies, or they're different classes such as magic. So the other Scoobies we've got are Willow Rosenberg. We also have Cordelia Chase. I forget what the red is called, but it's fairly straightforward. The cards do have the color outline, except on these ones, as these are the your best cards typically for your heroes, the really special ones. And we, of course, we've got Xander Harris, and this symbol here represents more tech. And you'll notice right here, like just for example, the special abilities and why some of these cards with the hero on it are better. If the light is 3, defeat a villain, and if you've played 2 Scoobies, you get to rescue 3 bystanders. Now, we've talked about the main characters, and since we mentioned the bystanders, we'll move over there. And another difference in this version of Legendary is there are a lot of different bystanders, and rescuing the different bystanders gives you like a lot more rewards than what you got in, say, Marvel and other versions of Legendary. So it is pretty neat, like draw 2 cards and discard a card with Lily. advance the light, or you can even potentially advance the dark. So that's just a quick look at the different bystanders. Now let's take a look at the other characters. And we're going to move across the board. So we're starting with our character that doesn't really have a place. We've got the Buffy bot. So if you feel like having two versions of Buffy, well, you can add the robot version in. But you notice she doesn't have a affiliation. Now we've got Riley Finn, who is affiliated with the Initiative, and that's the green symbol there. So as you can see, playing two other Initiative guys with him can be very good. We've got our supernatural characters here. And of course, we've got the two vampires. We've got Spike and Angel. We then have two other supernatural allies, Willow's first boyfriend, Oz, and Xander's longtime girlfriend for a large part of the show, Anya. We then move into some more of our Scooby characters. We have, of course, Tara McClane, who was Willow's girlfriend and also a witch, and Jenny Calendar, who I'm forgetting where she came from. It's been a while since I've seen the entire show. And we also have two more Slayers. We have Faith, and I didn't realize her last name was Lahane, and of course the first Slayer. Now these are all of the named heroes that you can place in the hero deck. As you can see, we got a lot of them, a lot more than what you're going to be getting in, for example, the Marvel Legendary MCU version of the game. So let's take a look at some of the generic cards that you can acquire. We have the potential Slayers, which you can purchase. As you can see, they are all the same. And depending on some abilities, it's going to be difficult with the height, but you can get some bonuses by having Slayer cards or drawing Slayer cards from Giles. These cards will always give you 2 recruit points, and they cost 3 to purchase. They're all the same, and they'll be placed there on the board. Then we've got our starting cards over here, which are also the Watchers, which give you 1 recruit point. I put 3 of them out. As you can see, they're all the same. And then, of course, we have the Initiative Soldiers, which work very well with Riley in the deck, and you have to have them as they are your base fight, and they've got 1 fight. Now we'll start talking about the different villains. And we're going to start with the ones I have over here because they are henchman villains. These are really your basic villains. They are all the same, so it really doesn't matter what group they are. They're all fall in the group of henchman villains. They just have their name at the top. So for example, we've got, I'll try to pick them up. Hopefully I won't move anything really off camera. We'll pick all the ones that I move up. So you've got the Shark Gangsters, and they have an ability here, how much fight you need to beat them. We have the Harbingers of Death, the Turok-Han Vampires. I'm just going to stack these up here for a moment. We'll fix it all up afterwards. And then we have the other villain groups, the Vampire Initiates and the Hellhounds. Some of them have an ambush effect, as you can see right here, capture a bystander or advance the dark. And we're not really going to talk about the ambush effects or things like that. You can find out more from that in the rules, as well as in our Marvel Legendary How to Play. But to summarize it, while I'm just sorting the cards, ambush means that ability triggers the moment they come into Sunnydale. Now in Sunnydale, we have the villain groups. So the characters that are more powerful than the henchmen. We'll start with these two. So as you can see, one of the groups is Harmony's Gang and Glory's Minions. We have the Scourge of Europe, which is well represented by Drusilla, and the Mayor's Minions with Balthazar. And then lastly, we've got Demons, and there are a lot of them, and they're represented by Halfreak. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's been a while since I've seen all the characters in the show. Now, I kept these off to the side just so you can see them. As you can see, there is a variety of different villains in the villain groups, for those of you that aren't familiar with Legendary. So henchmen are all the same. The villain groups have different characters with different abilities. Now, we've taken a look at the villains. We're going to get to this part of the board, and we really only have sort of the big bad, the scheme, twists, and the strikes. So we'll just talk about the wounds. And the wounds are all the same in this game. There is no differences. If you're used to playing, for example, a Legendary Encounters game, wounds are very different. But in this case, a wound really represents a card you can't use in your deck, and it has instructions on how to heal it, and they are all the same. Sorry, I just reiterated myself. Now let's take a look at the big bads. And we'll start with the ones I put off to the side right here. As you can see, we've got a total of 5 big bads. We've got the mayor, the first. We also have Florificus, and who can forget Angelus when Angel went bad. So it doesn't say in the rules if you can't play as Angel versus Angelus, but that could be pretty fun. And one thing that I did neglect to show you is there was a lot of the villain groups here. Don't forget, we also have the other villain groups, the Order of Aurelius and the First Minion. So that brings us to a total of 7 villain groups and 5 henchman villains with 5 big bads. And last but not least, we definitely have to show you the Master, the villain from the first season. Now, the other cards you're going to see are the Master Strikes and Scheme Twists. Master Strike will trigger an ability on the big bad, whether it's the Master or someone else. The Scheme Twist will trigger something on the scheme. Now, there's about 10 schemes in the box. I might be getting that wrong, but I just took out 2 of them quickly so you could see it. So we've got the Epic Struggle, Road to Damnation, all the information you need to set up the scheme, the special rules for that scenario, and what the scheme twist will do and how evil will win the day. And there you have it, guys. We've now covered everything that you get with Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As you can see, there's a lot. So what I'm going to do is we're going to be moving on to the setup of the game. It's going to be, I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. And then we're going to do a quick how to play, but we're going to really focus more on the differences of this versus the other versions of Legendary. So keep it right here, and we'll be back as soon as it's daylight. Now we're going to set up Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now you notice I'm going to be doing a 2-player setup. There are some rules for solo play, but typically you're going to be playing with at least 2 players. Now each player has a starting deck of 4 initiative soldiers and 8 watchers. That's why I've got these 2 decks here. You're going to shuffle them up, and I'm really just doing this quickly. And we'll place them there, just so that during the how to play I can play open-handed. And now our players are good to go. I am following the recommended setup for 2 players for the first game. For a quick guide of reference to set up the game for multiple players, it tells you how many players, how many villain groups, how many henchmen groups, and how many bystanders. And these are the amount of bystanders that are going to go into the villain deck. Now, let's start setting up the board with the simple stuff first. Now, we're going to take the bystanders. We've got a variety of them. I'm just giving it a quick shuffle, and you're going to be placing them face down. Because there are multiple types of bystanders, it's important that they go face down. Now we've got the wounds. You can place them face down or face up. In this Legendary, as they are all the same, there's no advantage to placing them face down. So we got our bystanders and our wounds. We also have the potential slayers. These are all identical as well, so you can place them face up. You're going to take the vampire book, and it starts at dark 1. You also need some courage tokens. You can place them in the spot for the courage tokens, and each player will start with a courage token. Now, we are then going to set up the big bad. The big bad is going to be the master. He has 4 cards. You shuffle them up so you don't know which is which. You place them down here, and you place the big bad on top of it. Next, we've got the scheme. Now it tells you how many scheme twists you're going to be placing into the villain deck, any special rules, and what happens when a scheme twist is drawn. Here, once again, are the scheme twist cards. So these will be added to the villain deck. We need a total of 8. I already prepared the 8. Once they are drawn, they will end up going in the twist section. I'll place them there for now. And that's the same thing that I will do with the Master Strikes, as these are going to be going into the villain deck. And with regards to a Master Strike, when it is drawn, please refer to what happens here. So Master Strike, set the dark to 3, and each player discards a random card for each Master Strike that has been played. Oof, that is a brutal card. Now we need to set up our hero deck. Now with regards to the hero deck, we're going to always have 5 heroes. For the first game, it recommends Giles, Angel, Buffy, Willow, and Xander. Now, I'm not going to shuffle these up a lot on camera, but what you're going to do, shuffle them up. Try to get a little variety at the top. If it doesn't come out very well, that's just what happens. I'll fix it up before we get into the how to play. And then what you're going to do is flip over the top 5 cards. So as you can see, there's a lot of Buffy. We'll just pull some random cards out so we can get some variety in there. Now, don't do what I just did, guys. Really draw the top 5 cards of the deck, but you want to spend more time shuffling it. We now need to build the villain deck. Now, we are going to add in the Order of Aurelius, and one thing I do want to point out is if you decide to do a different big bad than the Master with the Epic Struggle, you will always have them leading a specific set of villains. So the Master always leads the Order of Aurelius, which is why they're there. And as we are playing the 2-player game, we need the Hellhounds for the henchmen and the demons for the second villain group. Now we've got all of these. We're going to take the Master Strikes and the Scheme Twist, but don't forget we're going to need to add in a bystander, and it is 2 bystanders, so we're not going to look at what they are. We draw the 2 ones and we put them into the villain deck, and then we shuffle it up. Now we're not going to be playing any villains right away. Those will come out as we get into the how to play the game. This is just going to go face down as such. Now there you have it. We have set up Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What we'll do then is we're going to get into a quick version of the how to play, just to give you guys a feel of the game and really how the light and the dark track affect the game. So keep it right here and we'll be back once it's daylight. It's a little scary walking around at night in Sunnydale. So how do you play Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Well, it's very straightforward. First of all, I do want to tell you guys I just changed up the heroes that we can recruit from the library. As you can see, we've now got a nice variety. The first thing you do is you draw the top 6 cards of your deck, and you keep your deck face down, and you're never going to shuffle your discard. I'm actually going to move this over here until you have to. Now you're going to see we're going to start with a lot of Watchers, which is actually fairly good. Only 1 initiative soldier. We don't really get a lot of fight at the start of the game. So I'm just going to place these face up here. And we'll draw the first card and we flip it face up. So we've got the Half-Wrecked Demons. Ambush. If it's dark, each player gains a wound. Now, we have the ambush effect. That means each of us gains a wound, and that will go in the discard pile. We can move cards over a little bit, I think. Not a great way to start, but that's where we are. Now, there's nothing that I can do to fight this demon. What I'll have to do is purchase cards. So these initiative soldiers, as I only got 1 fight, there's nothing I can do. This goes really straight into my discard pile. I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 5. Now, there's not a lot of fight cards, but there is the Glorified Bricklayer, which is interesting because it gives me 2 fight. When I play it, I draw cards, and if I play with another Scooby, I can advance the light. So this, when I acquire it, goes right into my discard. I've now played all these cards. They go into my discard, and I will redraw a new hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of 6 cards. Now, I could have spent my courage token to buy something else, but it didn't really make much sense. And we're not going to be shuffling this until we've played our turn or something makes us try to draw a card. So I'll just stack this here face up. We don't currently have a draw pile. We now flip over a new card into the library, and it's going to be player 2's turn. And what I'll do is we'll draw the top 6 cards. And what we've got, once again, a lot of Watchers, but a little bit more of the initiative soldiers. We then slide the villain over, and they do have the potential to escape. And, oh, we got our first Master Strike. So the strike happens, means this villain doesn't move. So that means the dark automatically goes down to 3, which is the new component of the game. And then each player discards a random card for each Master Strike that has been played. So that's 1. We got to flip over our cards, and we're going to toss out a random 1. So we get rid of one of the initiative soldiers. Not the best. Same thing would happen here. And we discard one of our watchers. All right. Now, let's pick up the cards again. We really can't do anything with this initiative soldier. I'll just toss it in this card. We've got a total of 4. What's the best card we can? Dark. So here we go. Let's pick up Buffy. Hurricane Buffy. You see, it lets us draw a card, 2 recruit points, and when it's dark, you may KO a card from your hand or discard pile. This is a great card that we can use right now to start thinning out our deck and really getting more powerful cards. We then draw another one into the library, and it goes back to player 1's turn. Now, we're going to slide everything over, and I may play through only one more turn after this, so we'll see where we're at. Now, here's something very challenging. You see the 3? So they get plus the number of fight equal to the dark. So they're very powerful. Unfortunately, I can't defeat them. I have 3 initiative soldiers, which could be going up to a total of 4 by using that, but only 2 watchers. So this is really not a great turn for player 1. Initiative soldiers are going to go into the discard. We're going to spend the 2 watchers to pick up Prophecy Girl Buffy. That's the only thing. So the nice thing about this, you may activate dark abilities on cards you play this turn even while it is light. And if you play with another card that's yellow, which I believe is intelligence, I'm not really sure, they always change what they're called, you get to draw a card. Now that we've gone through our entire deck, we need to shuffle everything. We'll also just get Angel out there, shuffle our cards, and I'll flip over the top 6. And this will be our card pile. And here is our current set of cards. All right. Now, I should have done that as well for player 2. It's really just going to be the last 6 cards that they have here, with this being their discard pile. As it's their turn, slide everything over, draw another card. Oh, we get the Scheme Twist. Let's place this down. We take the Scheme Twist, put it over here, and then we read what happens on the Scheme Twist. If it is dark, set this Scheme Twist next to the dark and set the light to 1. If it is light, set this Scheme Twist next to the light and set the dark to 3. Now, evil wins when there are 4 Scheme Twists next to the dark. Interesting. Now, we're going to place this next to the dark, but we're no longer in the dark. We are now in the light. Nothing is necessarily moved over. And what's very important now is the 3 no longer gets a bonus from the dark, which means I can play 2 initiative soldiers plus 1 courage, and we then defeat the 3. Now you're going to keep these because you do get points if you want to play sort of the semi-co-op version. The player with the most points wins. That is marked here at the bottom of the card. We'll just put this here for now, meaning we've defeated the villain. These will go into our discard. We then have a total of 4 watchers to purchase something. And nothing that I love. Do like the ability to potentially advance the light. Or Research Guy, reveal the top card of your deck if it is a Watcher or a Slayer, gain a Courage token. That's pretty cool. So I'll take that. Once again, we shuffle up the cards, and we're then going to draw back up to 6. 1, 2, 3, yep. And we'll show you guys what we have. So we won't get our new card, but still not a lot of fight. And sorry, this should have been face down. And that's really how you're going to be playing the game. You're going to be managing the track, dealing with Scheme Twist, dealing with Master Strikes, potentially gaining Courage tokens. Oh, forgot to draw another guy, so we got Angel. And working to defeat villains before they escape. Now, if a villain escapes, just follow the rules for what happens when a villain escapes. Hasn't happened to us very often, but I will pull them out here, and let's just double check. Very simple. Villains, how to fight a villain. All right here. Rescue a bystander. Sorry, just trying to locate where it is. Let's go. Fortunately, that's one thing I do not like about this rule book is the index. Rescue a bystander, gaining cards, defeat Additional KO rules. You may discard a card. So it is not very clear what happens when villains escape. They don't really have a great section on it. But if they do escape, what I do believe is that they will capture a bystander, and it does have some negative effects. What I'm going to do is I will add a little thing to the video, and I'll tell you which page you can find the escaped villain information on there. I don't want to keep this going. I was trying to do this quickly. So we're going to move on now to a review of the game. So keep it right here. We're just waiting for it to get light outside. As you can see, it's pretty scary in Sunnydale. And we're back. And before we get to the review, I'm just going to cover the escaped villains. I was able to find it. It wasn't in a section that I thought it would be. It's on page 8. So if a villain escapes, it is placed up in the escaped villains pile. And what happens is the villain KOs a hero that costs 6 or less from the library. The player whose turn it is gets to choose, and that hero is just gone from the game. Now, to give you an example of how that would work, is that if this villain is here, and we'll just flip over a bunch of other cards. Scheme twist, it wouldn't be like that. It would really be with other villains. So as you can see, I hadn't planned this out. Now, what happened is you draw another card. It's a villain. This villain gets pushed up to the escape villain deck. Not the escape villain deck, the escape villain location. Then the player whose turn it is gets to decide one of these heroes to knock out and get rid of from the game. So this is the weakest one. It's decent, but not the best. So if they're not looking for a lot of fight, you take Old Booty Pants and you just knock it out, and it's not able to be purchased during your turn. Once the turn is complete, you would once again fill that spot with a new hero. You just can't acquire the card that was there. And that's what happens when villains escape. So it's getting light out, so we're going to come out with our review of the game. So Legendary, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What did you think of the game?
Well, as you mentioned in the intro, I like my Legendary games. I like my deck building games. I think they're a lot of fun. This is one of the ones that I enjoy the most. I did like the fact that the characters, the cards are true to the powers of the characters in the TV show, for one. I did enjoy that. I also like the light and the dark track. So as you ran over it in the components, I'm sure, and the how to play, this adds a different dynamic to it that I felt added a little bit of complexity that makes it a little bit more challenging. And your cards, the different cards react differently. Some cards do their power only when it's light or when it's dark. Some have a negative impact, some have a positive. So
the order you play your cards is a lot more important in this than I think in other Legendary games. Yeah.
So for that, I thought it was good, and it definitely has an impact on the game. I think it made the game move a little bit faster too. So I really like that. I love the fact that I watched this. I watched this when it came out. And I rewatched it again when I got Netflix and I was sitting at the house waiting while people were renovating the house. Rewatched the whole thing. It doesn't hold up that well nowadays. That being said, it was still campy fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I enjoyed looking at the stills from the show. I enjoyed seeing the progression that Spike has in this as well. He's either good or bad.
No, Spike is actually only good in this.
I thought he had some bad in one of the cards.
No, you're getting him confused with Angel. You've got Angel and Angelus. There might be one Spike villain card, but not the same way that Angel, he actually does become the big bad. And it was kind of cool that he's in there. It does mean that you can actually have Angel fight Angelus. I'm sure that's been some people's, fanfic fantasy there. But one thing I will say about Buffy, just the TV show, well, I don't think that more like the choreography and the way it was shot has aged well. The story's still fine. It's just more.
I'm surprised they haven't rebooted it since they've rebooted everything else.
Well, they are working on a reboot, and right now it's not going over very well. People aren't too happy about the idea of rebooting it.
Well, that's right. We heard David Boreanaz mention that at Comic-Con.
Yes, we did. So hopefully, and this is a little sidetrack, we'll get back to the game. If they're doing a Buffy reboot, I hope they take the concept and do something entirely different with it. I don't think you need to, Sunnydale, the Scoobies, the same thing. Do something new, take the concept, make it a real reboot, not a rehash.
So that being said, I don't have a lot of negatives about the Legendary games in general. I do tend to prefer the encounters a little bit more, but I think the fact that this game has the light and the dark track made it that much more fun for me.
Don't forget the courage tokens, which are a nice boost as well. When you get some courage tokens, you can potentially, hit a little bit above your pay grade or recruit above your pay grade.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just all the great stuff of the Legendary game system. I love deck building games, and I really don't have anything negative to say about it.
So I'll talk about my positives for the game. I will tell you one thing, the amount of content in this box, well, makes it worthwhile. It may be one of the more expensive Legendary games in terms of getting it at full price. However, there have been some places that had it on sale, and I will tell you, the price we got it at, it was a steal. I mean, you've got, for those of you that skipped over, the components, there are 15 characters in this. There are 5 big pads. There are a whole slew of villain and henchman villain groups. It's a lot more than what you're going to be getting in the MCU version of Legendary Marvel, or even the standard version of Legendary Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of value, really like that. Now the light and the dark track is a good thing and it can speed up the game, but just to disagree with Julie is that it can also be a hindrance on the game as well. It can make the game actually a lot more difficult and flow. Well, the difficulty isn't a bad thing, but it can sort of slow you down as it's not always easy to buy fight cards. And if the game goes dark very quickly, there are some different villains that have, they get boosted up by the dark. So you can find yourself in a hole and trying to catch up fairly early on, which is a little frustrating, but you do want challenge in your cooperative games, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that I think swings both ways. It's a positive, but it can be a negative depending on how the cards come up.
And for me, that adds to the complexity of the game, and yeah, it's frustrating to lose the game, but that's part of the game.
Yeah. I will say that I really do like the idea of the courage tokens getting the reward for, boosting up the light track or accomplishing different things in the game. I thought was really cool. The variety of bystanders means that nothing really feels the same and static. And you do have a lot of schemes in the game, so we'll have a lot of variety. I mean, the different schemes, the big bads, and all the different characters, you got a lot of combinations. So if you do like Legendary, you want... you need a refresh, but you don't want to necessarily go out and buy a whole bunch of expansions, well, this is something you should definitely consider. And if you like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme, we did review the other Buffy game, and they both have their positives and negatives, but I do think that this maybe shines through as I do prefer this to the other Buffy game, actually.
I definitely do, too. I was going to say that I like this one better.
Now, the other Buffy game does have a couple of things that drag it down just a little bit more, I think, in our opinion. It's been a while since we played it. We'll probably get it back out there when the expansions come out. Well, Friends and Frenemies, and there's even an Angel game coming out. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes everything up. But right now, in terms of Buffy games, this is definitely my favorite out there.
Yep.
And I think we've talked about it enough. For those of you that have seen our Legendary reviews, you know that we enjoy the Legendary games, and there's not a lot of negatives. I will say that there is one negative I can say. Their choice of stills was a little odd in some cases for the game. But I did like the board art, and they definitely captured the feel of the characters. So, Julie, what is your score for the game?
It's a solid 8.
For me, this is a 7.5. I don't like it as much as Marvel or as the 2 Legendary Encounters games that we've played. But it is solid. I'm never going to say no to it. And I mean, I liked it enough to sleeve it, so, well, maybe she liked it enough that I sleeved it. So that tells you how we feel about the game. And with that being said, what do people need to pay attention to now, Julie?
They can see video links popping up below to other content that we would have reviewed, so take a look at that.
You'll definitely see a link to the other Buffy game. I mean, we're reviewing Buffy. They might as well all be linked together.
And you can comment, like, subscribe. We always like hearing from you.
Don't forget to click the bell so you'll be notified as to when we are releasing our next video. And it's now time for us to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friends. Or keep playing games.
We're going to keep playing games.
I'd play this one again.
I know you would. You have no problem. If I suggested this or X-Files, it's like, oh, it's game time?
I'd even play the Marvel one.
I know you like the Marvel one. It's been a while. I wouldn't mind getting the Marvel one back to the table. Hopefully we get some more expansions for Marvel soon. Be nice if they did a Legendary Angel. I mean, we got Buffy, Angel. Could be kind of cool. Only real way to expand this game. Upper Deck, get on it.
Or SEAL Team, and then mix Buffy with SEAL Team. Yeah, no, doesn't look like you want to.
I don't know how to respond to that. We'll just leave it there.